Barbara used to call it her 3 o'clock wall. Every single afternoon, like clockwork, it hit her. The fog rolled in behind her eyes. Her hands got a little shaky. Her mood went from fine to irritable in the space of about 10 minutes, for no reason she could point to. She'd snap at her husband over nothing, then feel terrible about it an hour later. She did what any of us would do. She went to her doctor. She got her blood sugar checked, and the number came back completely normal. Not pre-diabetic, not diabetic. Normal, so she figured it wasn't blood sugar. Most of us would figure the exact same thing. Here's what nobody told Barbara. And it's probably nobody told you either. You don't have to be diabetic for your blood sugar to be quietly running your afternoons, your mood, and even your memory. You're not alone if this sounds familiar. And today we're going to fix that. Stay with me, because in a few minutes I'm going to show you a study that reframes what normal blood sugar really means after 60. And then I'm going to give you the exact changes that bring it back under control, starting with your very next meal. Here's the question worth asking. If Barbara's blood sugar number was normal, what exactly was happening at 3 o'clock every day? Researchers followed just over 100 older adults, none of them diabetic, all of them cognitively healthy at the start. Over several years, they tracked a marker called A1C, which is essentially a running average of blood sugar over the past few months, alongside a standard memory and thinking test. Here's what they found, and it's worth sitting with. For every small rise in that blood sugar average, memory test scores were linked to a real, statistically significant decline. This was an observational study, so it shows association, not proof that one directly causes the other. But the connection held up even after researchers accounted for age, education, heart health, and activity levels. And every single person in this study was, on paper, non-diabetic. So here's the loop I want you to sit with. If a completely normal blood sugar reading can still leave a mark on memory over the years, could that same sliding scale be behind something smaller and more immediate, a 3 o'clock wall, a mood swing, a foggy afternoon? That's exactly what we're about to find out. It comes down to something called glycemic variability. Think of your blood sugar less like a single number and more like a wave. A calm, gentle wave rolls in slowly and rolls back out slowly. A rough wave crashes up fast and crashes back down just as fast, leaving the shore a mess behind it. Two people can have the exact same average blood sugar level and completely different waves. One person's calm, the other person's getting hit by rough surf every single afternoon. Barbara's number was normal on average, but her wave was rough. Spiking after lunch, crashing hard by 3, and that crash is exactly what fog, shakiness, and irritability feel like from the inside. Here's the part that answers a question you might already be asking. Why does this seem to get worse specifically after 60, when it wasn't a problem at 40? It comes down to muscle. Your muscles are the single biggest storage tank your body has for sugar after a meal. Think of them like sponges soaking up extra glucose, so it doesn't sit in your bloodstream. Starting somewhere in our 50s and 60s, most people begin quietly losing muscle mass, a process researchers call sarcopenia. Less muscle simply means fewer sponges. So the exact same slice of bread that your body handled easily at 40 can create a bigger, rougher wave at 65, even if your diet hasn't changed at all. This isn't a design flaw, and it isn't inevitable decline you have to accept. It's simply a body asking for a little help doing what it used to do automatically. And that help comes in a form you already have full control over. Now, the 4 things I'm about to walk you through aren't from one single study. They're the everyday habits that show up again and again across the broader research on blood sugar and aging. Think of this less as one study says, and more as the pattern researchers keep seeing repeated. It's not the big obvious culprits doing most of the damage. It's 4 quiet everyday habits that most people over 60 never connect to their blood sugar at all. The first is refined carbohydrates eaten alone. White bread, crackers, a bagel, without any protein or fiber alongside them, hit your bloodstream fast and hard, creating exactly the rough wave we just talked about. The second is the timing of your biggest meal. Many of us eat lightly all day and then eat our largest meal at dinner, which asks your body to process the biggest glucose load right before the least active hours of your day. Here's a pattern interrupt worth remembering, because this third one surprises people every time. The third quiet driver isn't food at all. It's stress. When you're anxious or on edge, your body releases cortisol, and cortisol's job, quite literally, is to release stored sugar into your blood, preparing you for a threat that never actually shows up. Barbara later told me her worst afternoons almost always lined up with an argument or a worry earlier that day long, before she ever connected the dots to her blood sugar. And fourth, sitting immediately after eating. We already talked about your muscles acting like sponges for glucose. A completely still body after a meal leaves that sponge unused, with the glucose having nowhere to go but your bloodstream. Now here's the good news, and I want you to really hear this part. Every single one of these 4 things is adjustable starting today without medication, without giving up the foods you love. Here's the study that surprised me most while researching this video. Researchers had people eat the exact same meal, on different days in a different order. Same calories, same food, same portions. The only thing that changed was sequence. On one day, they ate their carbohydrate first. On another day, they ate their vegetables and protein first, and saved the carbohydrate for last. The results were striking. Eating vegetables and protein before the carbohydrate cut the blood sugar spike by roughly 1/3 to nearly half, depending on how it was measured, using the exact same meal. I want to be precise here, because this particular study was done in people with diabetes and prediabetes. Not a general senior population, but the mechanism it revealed, that food order slows how fast sugar hits your bloodstream, applies to how digestion works in anyone. This is the exact change Barbara tried first, mostly because it required nothing new in her kitchen, just eating what was already on her plate in a different order. So let's turn this into a plan you can start using at your very next meal. One quick note first. If you're managing diabetes with insulin or a medication that lowers blood sugar, changes to meal timing and post-meal activity can shift how that medication behaves, so it's worth a quick check-in with your doctor before adjusting your routine, not because these changes are risky for most people, but because your doctor knows your particular medications best. For everyone else, these 4 shifts are safe to start today. First, flip your plate order. Eat your vegetables first, your protein second, and save your bread, rice, or potatoes for last. Same meal, same food, just a different order on your fork. Second, take a 10-minute walk after your largest meal. Not a workout, just a stroll around the block or even around your living room. Remember, your muscles are that sponge. A short walk puts them to work, pulling glucose out of your bloodstream instead of letting it pool there. Third, never eat a carbohydrate completely alone. If you're having crackers, add a slice of cheese. If you're having fruit, add a handful of nuts. Pairing carbohydrates with protein or fat slows that spike every single time. And fourth, when you notice stress creeping in, especially around mealtimes, even 60 seconds of slow, deep breathing before you eat can lower the cortisol that's quietly working against you. A quick note on what to expect. This isn't about perfection. You don't need to reorder every single meal or take a walk after every single bite. Even doing 2 or 3 of these changes on most days creates a real, measurable difference in how smooth or rough that wave looks by the end of the week. Start with whichever one feels easiest to add tomorrow, and let the rest follow naturally. Barbara started with just the first 2 changes, plate order and the after-lunch walk. She told me the first few days felt like nothing had changed, and that's normal too. These effects build gradually rather than announcing themselves. But within 2 weeks, she noticed her 3 o'clock wall had softened into something she barely noticed anymore. Not gone overnight, but softer and getting better every week. So here's what I want you to remember. A normal blood sugar number doesn't mean the story is over. It means you're looking at an average, not the wave underneath it. And that wave is something you have real, immediate power over, starting with the very next meal you eat. If this helped you, share it with someone who's been told their labs are normal but still doesn't feel like themselves. And subscribe, because next time we're looking at something almost nobody connects to blood sugar at all. The quiet, everyday stress you're carrying, and just how much it's been working against you. Take care of that wave. You have more control over it than you think.